and we have complemented those efforts also as IDC by working to withhold some amount on the work that they were currently doing as part of the consortium to force them to pay. But to date, this amount is still outstanding. We are in fact in court under arbitration. We are direct of arbitration to try and see how we resolve these two issues. So that is the current situation as we speak. There is a mediation process going on to try and see how we resolve the situation. Needless to say that the 3.6 is a debt which is now coming to 10 years from the time that this issue started. Honorable Chair, the next item which we are looking at is the question of failure to enforce contracts for the supply of 2 mobile flash welding machines, which was termed by the Office of the Auditor General as wasteful expenditure. Again, there was a practice those times of giving advance payments and paying in advance before goods are delivered. Unfortunately, in this case, the goods, one machine was delivered and the machine was later found to be defective. It was not clear whether the machine was new or old, but it was defective and therefore ended up being rejected, which meant that the money spent on it without it being replaced then became the subject of a dispute with the supplier, and then the second machine was also not delivered. So there are a few lapses in terms of the receiving process, which led to the late discovery of these defects on the specification between what was ordered and what was delivered. So as we speak now, we can just confirm to the committee that there was a first arbitration meeting that was held on the 13th and 14th of January in 2023. The matter still awaits judgment even up to this day. So nothing has been recovered on this item as well. Honorable Chair, the third item that was cited has to do with the ballast, which is the stacking of ballast onto the rail, where a contract was again signed for 60 million kwacha plus again payments made in advance for ballast which was not delivered, and we still have a debt of 12.6 million due to undelivered ballast. You know, ballast sounds very sophisticated, but these are just crushed stones. So it's really delivering crushed stones to put to the rail, which should have been a very easy contract to achieve because the stones are there and they should have been delivered. Again, there was short supply to the tune of 12.6 million kwacha from BUK Truck Parts Limited. There was a guarantee again by African Grey Insurance Limited, which was guaranteeing this supply. As we speak, Zambia Railways failed, was not able to recover from the guarantee because, again, when they sought to recover, it was purported that they needed to go to arbitration first before attempting to cash on the guarantee that they had, and therefore the matter still now remains in court for the parties to get arbitration determination on how this 12.6 million kwacha should be recovered. So on all these items, Honorable Chair, we have not made any headway in terms of recovery. The matters still remain in dispute. I submit, Honorable Chair.
Thank you so much, IDC. If I followed, we are locked up in court on all the three issues. Honorable members. Honorable Akoka.
Thank you, Chair. I think appreciating that these other issues are at the moment subject of legal proceedings, one will be cognizant of that situation. But there are a few questions that one would still want to put to IDC. And the GCO will appreciate that this particular appearance is a special appearance because it's on a special audit, which is looking at our national indebtedness as a country. So maybe one question, Chair, that I would like to pose is, from your understanding as IDC, how did you get to be beneficiaries of this loan? I'm asking this question, Chair, in the context of there are some institutions that were given money that, in quotation marks, they never asked for. You know, they were just told, we have allocated you several millions of dollars. So we were trying to walk back with you here. How did we get to receive the 120 million from the Eurobond? Did you play any part, or you were just told government has sourced some funding and therefore here is the money, see what you can do with it? Thank you, Chair.
IDC.
Honorable Chair, from the IDC perspective, the monies went to Zambia Railways for the signaling, for the three components of what was to be the rehabilitation of the rail infrastructure. So the first one was the rail track, which is the 900 plus kilometers from Chilelabombe to Livingstone. There was need to rehabilitate the line, so that was $79 million. There was signaling system, which was 3.5, but as members would have noted later on the refund, that the signaling contract itself was a contract for $50.9 million. So there are a few structures that were moving in terms of how the consortium was implementing this contract. And then the last part was for the rolling stock, which is these are locomotives and other things. So our understanding from IDC was because Zambia Railways needed to be restructured and recapitalized, that's how the money was allocated. I have to say that when we look at the figures themselves as they stand, there are some areas, obviously, which from our part require further probing. And those areas, the question that was asked was, how was this 120 used? So our approach from ID's perspective, as the investor, would be to actually follow to which account did it go, how much of it was converted, that kind of structure. That's the work that as IDC we are doing, in addition to the queries that we are looking at. So we are following the trail itself, but the contract for signing them for the monies, this money was directly given to Zambia Railways.
Chair, for me, I direct the question to the acting CEO for Zambia Railways. When you look on your submission on page 6 in terms of how this money was allocated, I'm sorry, I don't know how long Chair he has been in that particular position. Maybe as he answers, he can confirm so that we don't push him maybe to something where maybe he's relatively new in the job. So when you look at this money, which is on your page 6, this far, irrespective of maybe your period in that particular position, would you say, in supplementing what the group CEO for IDC has said, would you say that this money was given to Zambia Railways Limited and was applied other than the queries that has come from the auditor on the intended purpose of infrastructure, telecom and signaling, and rolling stock? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I've been in this position the last 2 months. Yeah, but in terms of confirmation whether this money was received, yes, it was. But in terms of application, I think these are the issues that are being dealt with now. I submit. Thank you. Honorable Makoka.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm still going slightly back to my question, but maybe with a little adjustment. What I wanted to establish is, did Zambia Railways produce its own cost estimates and say, look, for infrastructure improvement, this is the amount we estimate, telecoms and signaling, rolling stock, number of wagons, therefore $120 million is what we are submitting to the government? Or was it that here's $120 million, can you give a breakdown of what you can do? So it was then broken down into, use a bit of it on this, a bit of it on that, a bit of, though it adds up to 120 million. Which one came first in this case?
Let me request the chairman maybe to see from what he has seen in the books, if he can attempt, then I'll supplement.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorables. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to discuss this. I just want you to recognize that I'm 75 years old and I was with the railways and I came out, but I want to give you some background to this. The amount of money required to rehabilitate the line, including rolling stock, which includes the locomotives and wagons, is fairly substantial. There was, yes, from Zambia Railways an attempt to secure funding. In these documents, you will find that the amount really Zambia Railways needed was way above, say, what was it, 90, how much? 99, which was signed for?
It was nearly 1
billion.
1 billion US.
$1 billion US dollars. So certainly Zambia Railways have got numbers which are looking for that kind of money. So I suspect that I was not there, but looking at the records, it's very clear that they needed $1 billion to be able to go ahead. And so contracts were signed for that kind of money. I can safely suspect that the Eurobond was meant to be given to Zambia Railways. But when the money arrived in the country, I think there were other pressing issues that required that money. So we ended up at Zambia Railways only receiving 120, which was a drop in the ocean. But the line, in terms of what was to be the money, what it was supposed to be spent on, those plans are existing even as of now. We've been going to our parent company, IDC, asking for assistance for new equipment. The line, for example, the line is supporting somewhere in the region of 15 kilometers an hour, whereas it was meant to be supporting 80 kilometers an hour. You can see the difference and the condition in which the line is. So I think the thinking originally of asking government to assist in procuring $1 billion was there, because those plans are still on the cards. We are asking IDC to assist us to get that $1 billion if we can, so that we can bring the line back to its condition. As we stand at the moment, the equipment is in a very bad state. So it's from that perspective that I think the intention originally was right. It was to secure, to put the line back on track. But somewhere along the line, when the money arrived, ZR only received 120. And of the 120, it was meant to all go into ZR. But as you can see, the lack of supply, a number of people jumped in and started cutting corners. This is why we've ended up appearing before your committee. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Mr. Well, anything to add?
I think he has said it all. All I can say is that the rehabilitation of the rail system cannot be done piecemeal, because for you to put a new signaling system, it has to be on a brand new track or a track that is supported by appropriate ballast reinforcement structures, which allow you to have stabilization of whatever cabling and signaling you're putting in place. So it would have been very difficult to achieve much by putting new signaling on an old rail structure. So in terms of the approach to the project, I think that is a very important point to appreciate, that if you needed 996 million US dollars or $1 billion US dollars to rehabilitate the line, and then you give only 120, there is very little benefit that you can derive from changing the contract in such a manner.
Thank you. We give my last word. Chair, thank you very much. And that's the reason why, Chair, I thought to establish that background. Because since we are looking at the acquisition and utilization of this external debt, it's very important to establish what did we have in mind when we went out there to borrow the money first, so that we see where the deviation actually started before we get to even how it was applied or misapplied, as the case may be. Let me ask this final question, Chair, on my part. Was it your understanding as Zambia Railways, therefore, as IDC, that the 120 million was a loan and you had a role to play in the repayment of this loan? Or were you told this is a gift from government, the government will figure out how it repays this 120 million? In other words, did it arrive to you as a loan as well, or you had a different understanding? Thank you, Chair.
From our records at IDC, there is no record of a loan to Zambia Railways. It was simply money allocated for specific project elements, which project elements were being controlled by a party to a bigger agreement, which was to rehabilitate the entire rail system.
Thank you so much, IDC. Thank you so much, Zambia Railways. One is that, sooner or later, we can find $1 billion for Mr. Hatchbook and for the rail system, to serve the purpose it must serve, especially with all these corridors coming on board and all the investments we're doing for the roads, etc. Their sustainability, to a large extent, depends on how reliable our rail system gets to be. That maybe sooner or later we can rise to the challenge of Tanzania and make headlines that we have migrated from, these sort of trains we have today to something electric, that metamorphosis. And maybe on a lighter note, IDC must start looking to Vietnam, from the billions, we can have $1 billion coming to Mr. Hatchbook, and that will be good. Otherwise, thank you so much for making this appearance. I know that IDC will be joining us again on Thursday, so we look forward to having that interaction with you. But thank you so much, Zambia Railways. Thank you so much, IDC, for gracing this interaction. And at this point, allow me to lift the immunity so that beyond the presence of Parliament, please know that you're on your own. Whatever you say, be crucifying yourself. Thank you so much and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Honorable Chair.
Thank you.